Today's episode is all about people who genuinely love helping people. They love seeing the needs, they love meeting them. Does it sound like you? Are you a realtor who just loves helping people? You love helping your family, you love helping your kids and your clients? Well, in today's episode, we're talking all about type 2s, and you're going to want to tune in. Welcome to the EnneaReal Podcast, Women, Moms, Real Estate, and the Enneagram. I'm your host, Melody Wilson, a certified Enneagram and real estate coach. If you're a high-achieving realtor mom looking to find balance and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we explore the intersection of women, real estate, and the Enneagram. Join me as I provide Enneagram insights and practical tools tailored specifically for women in the real estate industry. Together, we'll uncover strategies to navigate the unique challenges and opportunities and find harmony in all areas of your life. So this is an interesting type that we're going to talk about today because a lot of women, especially mothers, tend to actually mistype as this number. And what does mistype mean? Well, it means exactly what it sounds like. You think that's you, but it's not actually you. So, like I said in our self-awareness journey in the last few weeks that we've been talking about the different types, just learn about all of them. And the more you learn, the more you understand, the more you'll be able to understand if it's yourself or not, the more you kind of slow down and think and reflect as to what are the core fears that really resonate with me. In today's episode of Type 2, we're talking about the key traits of the Type 2. Now, Type 2s are really helpful. I really like my type 2s. They also see things before people see them. So what do I mean by that? So if someone has a need and they decide they haven't said anything yet. But for some reason, the type 2 can see. They're the first ones to start that meal train for somebody. They're the ones to go and drop off food, or they're the ones to go out and do something or organize a GoFundMe campaign. They're all about helping people. Now, in our previous episodes I talked about before, I am a certified Enneagram coach as well. And I go over the Enneagram University handbook that we have of the key traits and we discuss them. So in the core qualities that they list, it says that the core fear is being unwanted, unloved, dispensable, and replaceable. Now, you and I can both imagine that nobody wants to feel this way, and we probably can all relate to being not wanting to be unloved and unwanted. Of course, all of us do. But at the essence and the core of a type 2, this resonates even more so, and it just really makes you feel uncomfortable every time I say it. Their core desire is the opposite, basically, is to be loved, wanted, appreciated, to be seen as kind, loving, and selfless, which is really interesting because if someone is truly doing something to help, they don't need to be recognized as being selfless. But in this situation, depending on the health level of the type 2, they're going to want to be seen as that. They don't want to be seen as someone that's taking away because, again, they're just all about helping, helping, helping. They don't want to be seen as selfish. But the interesting thing is that their core weakness is actually pride. Now, that will make you feel very uncomfortable if you're a type 2 because you're like, nope, that's not me. I'm not a type 2. I don't struggle with pride. But take a minute to listen to this a little bit more. Pride is the denial of your own needs. You insert yourself into others' lives as the helper, even if it's unwanted or unasked. So I see this happen a lot. And a lot of people tell me, oh, I know so and so is like that. So obviously, the intention isn't to impose or cause an inconvenience or whatever the case may be. Your motivation is to help, genuinely to help others. But when people don't ask for the help and don't want the help, I would challenge you to stop and let people let you know. I know that there is some strengths to having a type 2 see the needs before because it can be very great in that area, but you have to just, again, it's that self-awareness to understand how well do you know this person? What do they really need? Because sometimes what they really need is not what you actually think. And that's really hard because type 2s think they know how to help all of the types, right? Or the people around them. The core differentiator is that you are able to sense others' needs instinctively. So it's really a skill, but it is a skill and a power that you want to make sure you use properly. Okay, so some of the strengths that type 2s have is they genuinely love people and are generous, warm, and thoughtful. They intuitively sense others' needs and are caring, great listeners, and supportive friends. They're happy to step up, take initiative, and help in however the group needs. And they're optimistic and bring a positive light to groups. Now, for struggles, they feel it's unkind to say no or deny helping others when asked. This isn't just them feeling like they're being unkind. If they see other people say no, and in their world, they don't see boundaries, they see that person's being unkind, they could be judging other people, other types who are more clear about their boundaries. There's some types that are very clear about their boundaries naturally, and they may see them as unkind. By prioritizing others' needs over their own, they end up usually burnt out and resentful and bitter, which is right. It makes sense because if you're constantly putting everyone above yourself and not taking care of yourself, eventually it's going to catch up to you. They can lash out at others that don't love or care about them as well as they care for others, and they struggle to know what role to play if a helper isn't needed. They spend most of their brain energy considering others, which leaves them out of touch with their own opinions or feelings. When they are aware of their own desires, they may feel too guilty or too selfish to express them. So it's interesting because type 2s are so good at it, but again, if they're not completely self aware, it can cause them some stress. And type 2s are, again, you think of the word helper and you think, if I don't know how to help, what can I do in this situation? They're just naturally hardwired to not know what to do further from that point. So it's kind of interesting. Now, when you talk about the types in the Enneagram, I talked about this in some other episodes before. Every type goes into stress and into growth, and they look different. When they move into growth, they take on the positive traits of one number. And when they move to stress, they take on the traits of another number. So when you see that graph or the circle with the 9 numbers around and the arrows that point to it, that's the stress and growth arrows that are in that Enneagram image. Now, with 2s, when they go into growth, they move to the positive traits of a 4 and they become more introspective. They have a clearer sense of self-compassion, learning to nurture and love themselves. But when they're in stress, they move into the unhealthy traits of an 8 and they become irritable, aggressive, demanding, controlling, jealous, blaming, and vengeful. So you can see sometimes if you're in a lot of times when people are in stress, most of us live in stress. And that's why sometimes if you are a 2, but you think you're an 8, could be that you're a 2, but you're living in stress because you relate to the negative traits because you're in your stress area right now. So that's something to consider when you're looking at your Enneagram type and trying to identify which one you relate to the most. Take a look at what each of these Enneagram types look like in stress, because when they're in stress, they take on different traits of a different number. Now, it doesn't mean that they're stuck in that. The stress path is usually the signs that you need to do something to care for yourself, to move yourself back into the healthy trait so that you're not stuck in there. I think that's why it's so interesting and great to have a tool like this to help you move from stress back into health. And as realtors, it's really important because when we move into stress quite easily, one client can call you and set off your whole day and weekend. I'm guilty of that. And I'm not a type 2, I'm a type 8. And people think that type 8s just brush things off and don't have emotion. That's not true at all. And actually, in my growth, I moved towards a type 2, which is this helper. So it's important to understand, allowing yourself as well to feel the emotions. Now, type 2s are in the feeler heart heavy triad. So I mentioned before there's different triads. 891 is the gut, 567 is the mind and the head, and 234 is the heart. Feelings, feelings, feelings. And type 2s are making decisions out of the lens of heavy heart feelings. And so they feel all the feels. They're usually the ones that you'll see tears and empathy and crying. It's very strong with them, right? So it doesn't make everyone feel comfortable when people start crying, but it's their soft heart. And so I think that's also a key trait of a type 2. You can just be talking to them about a situation and you'll see their heart just in their face just pour out with emotion and empathy. And even if they don't know someone, they just want to help. That's just how they're naturally wired. So In the hidden side of a type 2 is interesting because on the surface, they appear to be selfless helpers um, who are in tune with others and willing to meet others, like we said earlier. But then in truth, they battle feelings of worthlessness when twos aren't receiving the love that they're giving out and affection and attention that they give. The inner narratives of unworthiness start to rise back up. So, twos need to realize that their lovability and worthiness have nothing to do with others' capacities to express it to them. Discovering true self-acceptance and self-affection is the necessary path for type twos. So that's a big load, right? So in these episodes, we're just giving you a brief overview as we go through the 9 types, and then we're going to link them to how they work with your YouTube strategy. In the future episodes, we will dive in deeper to each section of the type to really dive into specifically the hidden side, specifically what does it look like in relationships. But in this episode, we're going to talk just in a little bit here about YouTube and how it works. Now, some other things that type 2s you want to understand type 2s is their boundaries or lack of boundaries. Because they lack boundaries, they tend to burn themselves out. And you can imagine with real estate, if you don't set boundaries, a lot of realtors don't, you can obviously burn out. And type 2s will have a harder time to set boundaries. It's not because they're unorganized, it's because they just want to help everybody. So anybody that comes to them to want to buy or sell a house and they need their help, they're just all about it. It's not just about making the paycheck for them, it's about helping people. So in work, what the strengths are is they're flexible and willing to help however needed. So they're very much making themselves available. They're encourager and cheerleader of the team. They often build community and read the emotional temp of the office. So if they're part of a team or in a physical office or in a cloud brokerage, they're just a team member. They're able to reach out and build that culture. They're intuitive and help get people in the right seat doing the right job. So they're really good at putting people in the right place. So it's a really great asset in terms of team and seeing that. Now with the struggles, I just mentioned this earlier, can overcommit and take on too many tasks, and then they end up being resentful. So they see all the needs, they want to do all the help, they help, but they don't tell people that it's too much. And then they end up being resentful that they took on too much. So that's a struggle for the people around them because they really have grown to appreciate, and sometimes they don't appreciate what they do for their team members. And then for them to know, they may or may not ever find out that they overloaded their type 2 because the type 2 probably would never say anything. So if they finally figured it out, it's not great because I don't want to say it's too late, but usually it is because the resentment is there in terms of having all that there. It's really hard to fix it or change things. They do, as a struggle, want to please their boss and teammates and will dismiss their own beliefs, feelings, and opinions in the process. So because they so badly want to be a team member and want to please you and please those around you, that's why everyone around them is like, this is awesome. This person is amazing. They're helping me so much. But this is where things kind of fall to the wayside. So they can also, not always, have a hard time taking charge and being the upfront leader. Now, I have seen some type 2s be upfront leaders. It's not impossible, but sometimes they struggle with that. And I think the biggest thing that I see in type 2s is that they struggle with boundaries and they struggle with having those boundaries. Because like I said earlier, they feel like in essence, having boundaries is being unkind, whether it's they don't want to be unkind and they don't also like it when other people are being unkind. So it's an interesting journey. They always have a positive outlook. Okay. So they don't usually see the glass half empty, they see it half full. Side note, I was thinking, I see the glass 50% full. So that's showing a little bit of my type there. So in the type 2s, I think it's really important that they understand their challenges because then they can understand how it can work in their favor and also how they can grow. And when it comes to YouTube, if you understand your natural wirings, you can implement that into your YouTube strategy. So what do you mean by that, Melody? Like, I don't understand. How can type 2s and making video and being on YouTube, how can that be? How can that naturally work? Well, think about this. If you naturally want to help people, you need to have in any real estate goal or any goals for the matter, you need to know your why. Okay. If your why as a 2 is to help others, because that's what motivates you, then that is a great reason to put as your strategy. Because if your goal is to help others with your YouTube channel, that's genuinely your goal, not to get 10,000 subscribers, not to make monetization money, not to even make money. But if your ultimate, that's your natural wiring is to help others. Think about that in the context of your YouTube strategy. You think, I actually really want to help others. I want to help educate them. I want to help them move into our city. I want to help them understand the differences between the mortgages and the interest rates and the purchase price and the neighborhoods and all that kind of stuff. That will help. I think it will drive you to actually be motivated to put the strategy together, to put the videos together, to film the video, because you know when you film that video, you're helping others. And when you're not filming that video and you're not committing to what you said you were going to do, you're letting people down and you're not helping them. So that can naturally help you, because the biggest thing with realtors and YouTube is not actually consistently implementing what they want to do. They have all these ideas. I have things that you can download for free to implement so you can put together your YouTube strategy to see success. But people just need to understand that one extra layer underneath that onion. You're an onion, you have all these layers. And if you understand that that's what motivates you, use that to your extreme advantage when it comes to that. And don't forget too, your natural tendency will come out. So if you're in health and you're making these videos helping people, people will genuinely see that you want to help people. That's going to attract people to you to want to call you, email you, send you a direct message to be their realtor. So I think it's really important that people see that, because they can see your genuine care and support when you are speaking and talking. You don't need to be taught that. That's how you're naturally wired, which is such a great thing. Don't have to worry about the fact that, how do I show genuine care and support? You don't even need to think about it. Just, again, your motive is to help others. I'm going to do a pros and cons video to help these military families move from this city to this city. What are the things they need to know? And your natural ability to talk to people, same thing. Talk to the camera like you're talking to people, and you will be able to show that genuine care and support. Now, how do you set boundaries to avoid being overwhelmed? Because at the beginning, when you're newer, there's not as many people to help, not as many people know about you yet. And as you start to do things like YouTube, for example, or you start to talk to other people, they start to see that you're all about helping. They all want you. And now saying yes to everyone is now saying no to you and saying no to your family. So I think that's the key takeaway, is if you don't set boundaries, you are actually being unkind to yourself and to your family. Choose who you're going to be unkind to. This is how you're wired. It's not true. Let me tell you that. The voice in your head that says that when someone puts boundaries in place or says no to somebody is unkind is naturally how you're wired. It's not true though, but you do need to acknowledge that and work that to your mindset. So understand, hey, if I don't set those boundaries and if I don't say, you're not saying no necessarily, you're saying, hey, maybe I'm booked today, but tomorrow works, or 2 days from now works. Does that work for you? Because if you take that spot that you see is empty, you've now said no to your family for dinner. You've now said no to your kids for bedtime. You are going to regret it. As a mom's, I don't need to be a type 2. All of us moms can relate to this. Boundaries are so important. And that's why I think moms kind of tend to relate to this, because as moms, we kind of put on a type 2 hat when we have kids. You just, all of a sudden, your kids, you put them in front of yourself. You would do anything to protect them, no matter what Enneagram type you are, right? So I think it's really important that we as mothers take charge of our professional life so our family doesn't get pushed to the side. And I am guilty of it. I can relate. If you understand that, you let me know too in the comments, because this is a real problem and something that we as a community can support each other in. If we don't promote that hustle culture and we start to promote the supportive boundaries, that kind of thing with us as women and moms, that will be so powerful. Stop glorifying the hustle. Stop glorifying that we should be working at 9 o'clock at night after the kids have gone to bed, because you need to take care of yourself. So after the kids have gone to bed, if you're married, like, you should be spending time with your spouse, not, okay, it's back to work and I'm running a contract. Now, I obviously understand sometimes that it has to happen, but don't allow it to be a habit. where it happens all the time. So I want you to understand what self-care is. And so self-care is something that I wanted to put in here because we don't want to forget about how type 2s need to understand self-care. Self-care can look like so many different things. It just depends on what you enjoy and what gives you life. So I think that's something important. Self care is not selfish. Now, if you're saying this is self care and it's every single minute of the day, obviously that's maybe not self care. Maybe that's a little bit selfish. Self care is when you understand what you need and you take that time to make sure that you do the things you need. You also have to understand what is it that's self-care. What is self-care to somebody might not be self-care to someone else. So going to the spa may not be self-care to everybody. I'm sure most people would enjoy the spa, but if it doesn't, if you don't come out of it completely refreshed and feel like you still need more, that either might be a sign of that you're really needing lots more self-care or the fact that maybe that wasn't the thing. I love crafting. Haven't done it in forever. That's self-care to me. It seems busy, right? You have all these things, but man, do I love it because I can turn my brain off and that's self-care for me. It's being able to think about just what's here and I'm not worried about all the other things or the people. I don't have to think about anything else. I can take care of myself. So crafting is very different than going to a massage, but I'll tell you, I like massages and hydrotherapy. There's so many different things of self-care, but I think and some people like just to be going out for a walk and being in nature and in the quiet. So you have to understand what makes sense for your self-care. Maybe it's even, having that ability to have coffee with that girlfriend and just talking about nothing, no work, no kids, just, hey, taking care of, hey, how are you doing? So I think self-care is something you want, and we could talk all about that in an entire episode. And I think it's important. So as I close off with this, like, how do you be authentic as a type 2? Type 2s, you have to understand we love you. You have such a caring nature, and we want to see that in all of your social posts. Like, even when you're not the one in front talking, you planning that strategy behind the scenes, if someone's helping you implement, they're going to see that authenticity in your type 2 when they start to see the things that you're posting about. So make sure to be genuine to yourself and post the things that are important to you. Just remember the things that are important to you make people understand who you are. And if you understand who you are, you'll understand that this is such a great tool for you. And being a type 2 is so powerful to help you in all of your aspects of your business. Type 2s can really succeed when it comes to real estate, your genuine nature to help. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to get on a pedestal real quick. Being a realtor isn't about loving the interior design. I just have to say, might have offended some of you guys, but I hear about this a lot when I ask people why they want to be realtors. And they're like, oh, I really like the design aspect of the homes. I'm like, honestly, you should be in interior design or staging or an architect or not a realtor. Because realtors, we're all about helping people strip away the houses in terms of if it's brand new or old. We're all about helping people move and transition in their life. They're going to either happy times or they're moving on with their life, they're starting a new life. And then that chapter, we're also helping them, depending on what kind of home they're buying. Are they going to be buying a house that needs a fixer upper? Are you connecting them with other people? You're helping them. There's so many opportunities to help. So genuinely and authentically as a type 2, you're going to be thriving in this if you can understand how your strengths work to your advantages. You, as a YouTube channel, I can see it doing so well. So here's a pro tip for your YouTube channel. Get really narrowed down on the niche that you're speaking to. You can help all the people. You want to help all the people. But YouTube works best when you talk to a specific group of people. Now, because you speak to a specific group of people, it is not you saying no to the others. It's just you making your strategy work really well. YouTube needs to understand who you're catered towards so they can put your video in front of other people that you want. So just think about your ideal client. Maybe it's military moves, maybe it's young families, maybe it's downsizers. Think about your ideal niche and do your marketing there. And then take your Instagram and use that as an ability to market to your other ones in addition so you don't feel like you're saying no. So maybe that's a strategy you can use as a type 2 to hit up all of the people. But I will tell you that if you niche down, whether it's you as a type 2 or you as a type 5, 6, 7, 8, it's going to make you see a lot more results and it's going to help you exponentially grow the view count on your videos and it's going to make you see results. So if you have any questions, let us know, of course. And we're going to be back next week talking more about another Enneagram type. Any questions or specific topics you'd like us to cover, please reach out to us on our website or social media channels, melodywilson.ca. Together, let's unlock the potential within you and thrive in both your real estate career and motherhood.